Okay, welcome to chapter 5. We're going to continue on and refining the value of this guy's face. So now establishing his the side of the nose. I'm using the existing value, and on the tip of the nose you can usually have a sort of a darker value than the most, because you put some highlights on there and it's easier to see, and sometimes it will be red. So you can put in the sort of darker values, and when you apply red it will be kind of reddish, and then you kind of flesh the scalp out the lighter value using the highlight on the tip of the nose usually, and most of the time you should see the tip of the nose rather than the whole nose, and the rest are just you can use kind of like the same value along the nose bridge and things like that. And now trying to refine the shape of his side of his face, and I'm adding some change to his eyebrows a little bit, putting some lighter as it goes out. So at this stage I'm using like 70% most of it opacity, trying to apply some darker value into the tip of the nose that came out. Okay, so I'm going to the eyes, and now I'm going to fill in the color on the hair, the value on the hair. Just make it dark since I applied a darker value already. So now I add up. There you go. And now I'm gonna have him wear like a really tight mech suit, dark along the neck. So, and apply some value to his outfit, and then ears. So now we got part of his ear, and the chin will be dark, and then some shadow underneath his mech armor or mech suit, and then the rest of his suit and things like that. So when you apply or adding up the element, is kind of giving the subject something to give me more of a feel of what this guy would look like and things like that. Yeah, when you put the costume and the element of surrounding in, it's kind of add a little more character, and it's kind of help your imagination, like hey, what would facial expression or what the eyes look like. It doesn't have to express on the face, but it's kind of like making the face feel the character with sort of like personality and history and things like that. You start thinking about where he's came from, and his background, and what is his mission and things like that. That's those sort of element of story and things like that that floating around your head will kind of help you with your art also. And it's kind of like you have some there's some significant story in there, and it's kind of help you. So now I'm using a soft brush, low opacity, to kind of like adding more value to the face, like the lower face on the other side of the face, and then the part that I leave the lights over here, and then I'll kind of apply to the rest, darker value right there. So it's really important when you establishing a character or designing a character to sort of have a little bit of knowledge of what his purpose is and what his mission and things like that, the backdrop story thing. So I start to kind of have a roughly refined mech suit and things like that. And now I'm going in and refine his lower part of his face, adding some more darker value onto the appropriate place right there. And in this chapter we're gonna take it the value all the way to almost the end. and I add some, you know, some hairline, a little bit here and there. Maybe a little too refined. I want to make it a big clumps a little more, because small clumps not, sometimes it can look off or doesn't belong there, and that's important too. There you go. So now we got the hair kind of almost lay out there. Now I'm going in and adding some, establishing some darker value onto the dark spot. Just kind of like the way I work most is, you know, from studying oil painting. It's like from mid-tone, and then you kind of apply dark, and then light, and then a little darker and lighter. It's kind of, digital painting allow you to experiment with a lot of things, and you should take advantage of, you know, how you can like have different version, and once you finish this, you can apply like a mustache or things, and you can just keep the old version, and you can, you know, apply a bunch of variation, things like that. So now I'm going into his eye socket and applying some, you know, minor details in there, a little bit in the eyes. And there, his lips. So now we're almost there. We, you know, established a bunch of, you know, applying value, and most of them are pretty basic, and the principle are the same. And a little bit underneath the eyes, have some darker value, and now I'm refining his nose and nose bridge. It's just, you know, at this stage it's about precision, and just kind of like tweaking things here and there, and applying the proper value. And sometimes in painting, as I say all the time, that sometimes things you don't see, your eyes will kind of add the whole picture together, is add up. Like, you don't need to, like, a lot of people drawing nose, and like they draw the whole nose or paint the whole nose, and there's no point to it. It just, you just have to paint what is there, where the light is hitting, and where the part of the piece is falling into shadow. Like the nostril and the underneath the nose, you can apply it into just one block of paint, because they all fall into the shadow. And most overall, like, you know, some part may be darker and lighter, but they all fall into the same sort of dark value range that you can, within the dark value range, you can like around here, it's a dark value range, but it has a variation of the dark, and you can tweak it within the dark. So those are very important in painting, and you don't want to like going in and trying to, you know, zoom in and do all the detail, and then you're not looking at overall value, and the value is off. So you have to, like, every time you paint, you have to think, trying to maintain the overall value, and whatever is in the dark, there's not going to be any highlight in there, so don't put any lighter stuff within the dark value. Just trying to maintain the overall value, and then you'll be fine. And don't get caught up in the detail. Just, you know, detail can be applied within the certain amount of range of value, and once you understand value, everything will get a lot easier, because most of the time it's all about value in painting. Color is cool, but to me, and to a lot of concept artists, values came first, and you can always apply color later. And now I'm going into the chin, and as you can see, the chin have a highlight spot, but it's not going to be as light as the one on his face right here, but it's, you know, it's may give an illusion that's, you know, that's pretty light, but it's not as light if you color pick it and use things from there. Or you can, you know, go study portrait of, you know, John Singer Sargent or Anderson or those master, then you'll find you learn a lot. And another good way to practice is to copy an artist, your favorite artist piece, and then you might find a lot of things that he does become very useful, and how he uses a color, and how he lay out the shadow and things like that. So now I'm adding some more shadow onto the side of the face and trying to blend in certain on the cheekbone and things like that, but it's almost there. And apply some darker element so that his face will pop out a little more, because I put some darker, because his face tend to be lighter in the value range. So if I apply darker value onto the side, and so compare and contrast. And now what am I doing here? Copy a layer, paint on top, applying some darker value to overall the eyes, kind of testing out, and underneath the nose. It's better. It's giving it a more definition. So now adding some minor details onto underneath his eyes. Usually underneath the eye will have that kind of shadow because of those little back under the eyes, and sometimes we receive the highlight a little bit on the top or the edge of the lower eyelid. Be that a little too much, I might have to tone it down later. And now after this, I'm gonna be, as you can see, I have the overlay layer over here. So now is the facial feature is probably, since he doesn't have a lot of edge or bone or feature to play with. Most young hero have like very soft face. It's not like you're painting old people. People would like harder bone structure or things like that. We want to keep him sort of refined, so he doesn't have a lot of feature to really play with, except the eyes and the nose and the lips. So after this, I'm going to be applying color combination, just like the previous one. So I'll see you in the next chapter. This is chapter 6 next, I think. Alright.